Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Broken Oars Indoors, and we are continuing our series on the great training programs of our time. Happy enough, this week I have got Aaron back with me, and you will see that we have a much more light-hearted discussion. And this week we are covering both the Wolverine training plan, Mike Calverston's University of Michigan training plan, which has been adapted by some people onto the Ergo, and its altogether more user-friendly little cousin, the Pete plan. I'm doing this little intro now because me and Aaron were our consummate professional selves and didn't really do a decent intro at all. And I'm also doing this to say that all the documents, there are two documents relating to the Wolverine Plan, and there's the Pete Plan website. All of those are linked down below in the description. Also, I'm linking at the top of this Pete Marston's, not ours, Pete Marston's, and you can check this out and you can check with Pete, or you can click through onto Pete's website, the Pete Plan website, and go through that way. But we are leaving Pete Marston's PayPal donation button at the bottom in the description, because Pete has given a huge amount to the indoor rowing community. He has done a hell of a lot of work, and a lot of people have had a lot of success with this program, and I do think if you have had such success, you probably owe him a fiver. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the Wolverine Plan and the Pete Plan. I hope you enjoy it. The Wolverine Plan, this jobby, as you can see here, of a grand total of 22 pages of a training plan. And this is what you get if you put into Google the Wolverine Plan. And we'll link this document in the explanations. It was Mike Calverston's vehicle for training the University of Michigan ladies rowing crew between, I think, 2000 and 2004. It's very, very big on its specific rate and pace recommendations, particularly in the endurance side of things, and involves quite a lot of volume. And for various reasons, this whole kind of document you can see here, which goes on and on for a way, seems to think that when you're doing your low rate, long distance endurance work, everything should be done as very carefully specified rate pyramids. Now, I think it's important to understand this, the foundations for this document go back to about 1998, I think I read. So it's not, again, it's not the most up-to-date thing. It doesn't have access to every single student rower has got their own heart rate monitor and app on their phone which records everything they do on the earth. But essentially, this is a remarkably in detail document, and it's very much there's a hell of a lot of getting into the mind of Mike Calverston. He puts a lot of his philosophy in here.
Is it a nice mind to get into? Is it a friendly, welcoming mind that says, hello, come in, sit down, have a cup of tea, let's talk about your ambitions? Or is it a dark, cavernous mind of pain and woe? It's pain and woe, isn't it?
How should I put this? He's the rowing coach's rowing coach. He really is. You can kind of understand. So hang on, what have I written here? In this document, he shows the kind of inept, hyper-masculine incel-dom that demonstrates characteristic inability to deal with young female athletes that is almost worthy of an Australian cycling coach in the UK. It's absolutely shocking how unsympathetic this guy comes across.
Can I leap in there?
Yeah, sorry, I have COVID.
No,
which is
that's
not a
fine.
computer virus, so Aaron is safe. But yeah, so to give you an idea, okay, we've got this little skit here before we get into like what, and this is before he starts talking about any of the idea of what you're actually going to do in the Wolverine Plan. He kind of goes onto this little skit about why we have to train. So like, here we go, training, this whole thing, it's absolutely brilliant in some ways. It's absolutely terrifying in others. So let me just read this out. Training is essential for success. You and I can both like agree with that, I'm guessing.
I would say so, yes.
Yeah, we can. This is a law of nature, like gravity. Big, serious,
Well, I'm going to leap in there because it's what I do essentially. But even if none of us existed, gravity still would. Training only exists if we do it.
Yeah.
So it's not really a natural law like gravity. He's one of these Americans. He's a bit like Tim Kennedy or Jocko Willink. And obviously I'm going to change my address at this point because they're both ex-special forces who could probably kill me with a pencil. But it's that kind of wake up at 4:30 in the morning and do 100 burpees as you get out of bed before going to crush weights in your garage gym and then going to roll Brazilian jiu-jitsu, because what you must be in this life is prepared, that you must work relentlessly and you must work until you die, because it is the only way where success will come from. Some kind of, I don't know why Americans have this, whether it's some kind of puritanical, Calvinistic, we got rid of all of our religious nut jobs in the 17th century. They went to America and bred, and they thought that the life should be pain. But surely we train because we enjoy it, Dr. Hines. Surely, like gravity, we enjoy gravity. It keeps us on the planet. We train because we enjoy doing it with our friends and achieving goals together and stuff.
Not apparently if you were in the University of Michigan's women's crew team between 2001 and 2004. You didn't enjoy it. You trained because it made you win.
Right. Okay.
And they did win. There's no two ways. They won the NCAAs and all of these things. They did very, very well, and they podiumed or whatever. Medaled,
all of the horrible things that the Americans do with language. We podiumed, we medaled. Yeah. We got rid of you in the 17th century. There was a reason for that. F off. Moving on.
Anyway, so your coach, this is a law of nature, like gravity. Training is essential to success. Your coaches have determined the amount of work necessary to give us a realistic chance to compete for a national championship. This can't be negotiated, Aaron. Okay? Still, athletes on occasion try. You can recognize how absurd the following conversation would be between a doctor and a very sick patient. Doctor, I'm sorry to report you have cancer, which is life-threatening and will require painful and debilitating treatment for a long time. Patient, oh, but I have a husband and 3 young children and a part-time job, and I have so many plans right now. Doctor, oh, in that case, you just have a bad cold. Now, you and I can both understand the ridiculousness of that.
Yes.
Can we also possibly understand the ridiculousness of a rowing coach comparing themselves to a doctor?
Well, having met a lot of rowing coaches, no, that's harsh. That's really harsh. No, yeah, I can. This is what's called an analogy without equivalence. In other words, it's about as much use as a chocolate teapot. But moving on.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's that bad, but it's like, it's still... wind your neck back in, son.
I've eaten a chocolate teapot. I would recommend it. It's really nice. It's chocolate.
Can you actually buy
You can buy chocolate teapots. You don't make tea in them. You just eat them.
Well, of course you do.
That's all I'm saying.
Anyway, yet some athletes apparently expect to have the following exchange with their coaches. Coach, here's the training plan we will need to follow to give us a chance to win the NCAAs. It means several hard workouts a week from September to May with little mental or physical rest. Athlete, but I have to study and I have a boyfriend. I want to hang out with my friends and I tend to get sick easily. Coach, in that case, just train once in a while when you feel like it. Now, again, I do actually sympathize with this point. And what he goes on to say is the price of victory isn't negotiable. You have to do what is required of you. However, I just think it's like writing this down in this document that you're going to give to a bunch of like 18 to 21-year-old young women, possibly for the first time as you meet them, and say, read this, is just literally just like saying, don't question me. I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. You're going to do it. And I actually think that's a really horrible way to start a relationship with an athlete.
Well, that was why my hand was in the air like I just don't care, because I fairly obviously do care. The problem is not the idea that you have to do the training to get the result. I think you and I would both agree on that. The problem here is the languaging of it. Now,
this is the thing.
Yeah, when you said earlier, it's not negotiable, Aaron, I don't think that you or I at Agecroft, and let's be honest about Dennis, and indeed, Chapman, who was our captain for a time, everything we did got written down on a spreadsheet. Everything, every single session. We were given the training plans at the start of every month, and it was all logged. And come selection time, it all added up to where you ended up. It's, but I don't think that you or I ever felt that we were doing something. Where was it when he said, with little mental or physical rest? I don't think we ever felt like we were in mental pain because we were doing it, or we were being forced into it. It was some kind of water torture that we had to endure for success. I think we quite enjoyed the training as getting us better. It wasn't languaged in this way, was it? And obviously there's a difference because we are male, and this is a university coach talking to young women. It's hyper masculine, it's hyper aggressive, and it's hyper dominant. I think if anyone had kind of sold rowing to me on that basis, I wouldn't have been interested. But I actually enjoy moving the boat. And I did what Dennis asked me to because it meant that I could move the boat better, which felt better. So it was a relationship built on building. It was positive. Everything that we did was positive because it impacted upon our ability to move the boat better. And that's what we liked. Yes?
Yes. But I mean, you've got to admit that sort of like all this fundamental going on here, all this stuff, it doesn't come over very well, does it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't. I don't think I was mentally tortured by Dennis at Agecroft, although that's possibly just Stockholm syndrome. I don't know. Possibly. But I found every session that we did, it was very clear that it was Kevin at Agecroft used to talk about building the ladder. So every session you do, you're building a ladder towards what you want to do in the sport, whether it's head of the river or whether it's aiming for Henley. And sometimes you'll come down the ladder because you've had a bad session the boat, or you didn't get this result. But you've got to think that you're constantly building towards something. And that is a languaging that is positive, as opposed to, I am going to hurt you and you have to do it if you want to win. And that is that. It's the law of the universe. I think that's a little bit American. It's a little bit, John Wayne, we really won Vietnam, honest sort of thing going on there. You're regretting asking me on this podcast now, aren't you?
No, actually, this is kind of like, this is the sort of thing that I wanted to talk about. And it's just like, because so much of this is about, really, is this how we should be looking at this kind of whole, how do we train? How do we train when we're training for ourselves? How do we train when we're training for other people? And when you have a coach and when you're being told, and how should coaches act towards their
charges,
athletes? I mean, it's like, and I mean, now I have found out a little bit more about Iron Mike, and he has led a very interesting life. He's actually the strength and conditioning coach for the Navy SEALs Buds course, which is their first kind of boot camp type thing for people who've all been through boot camp and already in the Navy, and they're all actually just trained soldiers. So it's like really very, very tough. and apparently they all think he's incredibly soft. They literally, to quote King Julius, they think he's a big bunch of pansies.
Okay.
And so he's not actually this insanely kind of aggressive guy. I think he just presents himself very, very badly. Even though he's saying kind of like a lot of frankly quite sensible things.
So does is the issue with this the languaging? If we actually look at the nuts and bolts of the training, will it actually make a rower develop, go faster, get better?
Well, here we are. General features of the plan. Let us look at the nuts and bolts of the plan. So the first and interesting thing, this plan is meant to apply equally to all workouts, whether performed on the ergometer or the water, which I think is actually a really interesting thing, because the Wolverine Plan and the Peak Plan, which is very closely related to it, are absolute staples of anybody who is like saying, well, I don't want to spend money on a coach, but I really want to follow a training plan and get faster on their own machine. The idea that you can also do all of these workouts on the water is also quite a novel and interesting one and sensible, and is a really good thing that you could actually sort of like do both, essentially. Okay. High volume, and also, so here's a slightly softer side to Iron Mike. There will be no large or sudden increases in volume or intensity. The plan is systemically, progressively, continually built through the duration of the season. This will minimize the risk of overtraining and minimize the need to taper before competition. There you go.
So he's talking about what you and I would call progressive loading.
Yes, and okay. he actually does care about burning out athletes, and he wants to avoid it. Right, so details of the plan. This is kind of like a very, very good part of this, and it follows straight over into the Peak Plan. So you've got your level 1 workouts, your level 2, your level 3, and your level 4. Your level 1 is your 8 by 500 meters. Okay. Now, it's got to be said, I absolutely love the way he's got these set up. So he's got this, and I'm not quite sure where it is, but you do 8 by 500 meters with 3 minutes 30 rest in between. Right. Which is just, it's massive. You can absolutely smash these. If you do this workout, 8 by 500 meters you can really go for it. You can go 2K pace plus. Am I looking at a training program that is essentially using a lot of shorter duration pieces at a higher intensity? And is it getting rid of the 18Ks and the 21Ks and that kind of thing? Is not everything okay? Not at all. So you see, the thing is, you've got your level 1, which is basically sprint pieces. So it's like 8 by 500, 4 by 1K, and 4 by a K or a 4K pyramid. 4K pyramid. Yeah. Do you remember the 4K pyramid from anyone? I remember. Well, I'm thinking back to shortly before Henley, when what were called Dennis's pyramids of doom would see grown men sharing a toilet to throw up in the recovery block. Is that what we're talking about? 250, 500, 750, 1K, 750, 500, 250. Apart from the 1K, that is pretty much spot on. So what was Dennis's? It was 250, 500, 750, 750, 500, 250, as hard as you could with no pacing, 3-minute recovery between each one, then 10 minutes between each block. And I think we did it usually twice, but I'm fairly sure we once did it 3 times. But I'd have to check my diary. Which probably wasn't fun, but yes. Yeah, it was horrific. I remember being over a toilet with Sean going, I don't feel very well, and Sean going, neither do I, but we still have one more to do, so let's get back in there. Yes. Sean, he was great, wasn't he? Sean was wonderful. So yeah, there are. But again, these are brilliant workouts.
But he's doing his 8x500 not as a flat out lactate sprint. He's doing it as a pace, isn't he? So it says there, is this based on 2K pace?
Yeah. So in other words, your best 2K, your average 500 minute is 148.8. That would be the slowest pace that you would complete the 8x500 meters.
Right. Okay.
Go faster if possible.
Okay. So this is basically interval training. It's not like a lactate pyramid, which is what Dennis treated it as. So it's basically getting you used to moving at those higher rates and higher intensities.
It's all about kind of like trying to push that 2K pace
over a 4,000 meter block.
Yeah, essentially that's the whole idea. So it's like you do twice as much work as you're actually going to do.
Okay.
And then all of these ones are like approximately 4 times as much work in the level 2. So this is kind of, I would suppose, what we would have called aerobic threshold workouts.
Yeah.
Okay. So, your 4x2K, your 5x1500.
Yes.
This kind of descending 3K, 2.5K, 2K.
Yeah. It's like an AT threshold workout.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
And then you come down here for your level 3, which is, it's long, hard stuff.
So this isn't quite UT, is it? This is still kind of pushing towards and aerobic threshold.
Yeah,
would you say?
It can't be that high because you're talking about continuous 12K.
Yeah.
Or 2x6K.
Or 2x6 with an 8-minute recovery. I mean, what was our recovery on our 6K? Was it 1:30 or 2 or something like that?
It was 2 minutes. It was meant to be
2 minutes. Yeah.
But these ones are, these are done pretty hard. So I think if you're doing 12K, that's going to take you 12K hard is going to be like 40 minutes.
Yeah,
minimum.
Yeah.
So you can't really say that's in AT because I don't think a normal human being is going to last that long at that level.
No. Okay.
But that's, those workouts. Oh yeah. And then you've got this 15 times 3 minutes with 1 minute recovery in between.
Right. Okay. So you're working at 85 to 90% of your 2K time. Okay, so I kind of see what he's doing. He started with the short, fast stuff, and he's then coming down to what we call the longer, steady state pieces. Yes.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I think of these less steady state. Well, he reckons they're going to be done 2 or 3 times a week, which is you got to remember that this is like anything up to like 12, 13 times a week. Training.
Yeah, and these aren't
proper university training.
And these aren't erg sessions because he's included them with water work. So this would be some of the stuff that we did on the water at Agecroft at the weekend. Yeah. After we'd done our steady state, we'd then go back out and do shorter pieces.
Yep.
Okay. Well, this is all kind of starting to make sense. I'm beginning to think that Dennis was not a training god, but just had access to a lot of documents.
Quite possibly.
Possibly.
Now, I kind of think that a lot of people have had access to this document, but where this kind of goes, where I really start disliking, so level 1 to level 3, I really like. I think it's great. And that's all in the peak plan.
Okay.
On the other hand, level 4 just goes slightly nuts.
That's more than one paragraph. Level 4 seems like it's covering a lot of stuff.
Level 4. Okay, so there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A couple of other comments. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 paragraphs. And yeah, just to describe long, slow distance workouts.
So he could have just put it in one sentence, which is do your 65 to 75 minutes of steady state 3 times a week at about 18 to 22, try not to pull the bollocks off it, and occasionally have a chat with Ben or Lewin who are sitting next to you.
That's about right.
Well, I've done this
probably
before.
what he should have done, but he didn't. This is kind of now. Obviously I've been researching this, but I've known about the Wolverine Plan for a decade now. And every time I thought, I'm going to go back. I'm going to look up this. I'm going to work it out. I'm going to make a training plan out there. I've got as far as level 4, and what is going on here?
Is that because you're allergic to steady state? You just basically like to rip the bollocks off it?
I'm getting better at that. I am getting better at that. I have learned to row with the heart rate monitor and keep my heart rate below 128 beats.
Is it your heart rate you're monitoring, or one of your children's? I mean, be honest.
No, it's definitely my heart rate, because if it's one of my children's, they'd just be like, it'd be a lot higher than 128 beats a minute, and it'd be all over the place.
Peppa Pig is incredibly exciting, so I imagine they're hitting the high 180s at times.
Yeah, they've moved on. They've moved on to so far beyond Peppa Pig now. It's Kong, Planet of the Apes. What else is there? Well, there's Pokemon.
Pokemon.
And you see, the problem is that now we've reached the great divergence,
right?
Where my daughter likes watching kind of like preteen stuff about emotions, and my son likes watching like robots that can actually also be cars at the same time, and are engaged in a galaxy-wide, eon-spanning feud with each other.
Are you talking about Transformers? Because
he when he saw Transformers, his eyes lit up.
You are speaking my language.
And he wanted to know why I hadn't bought him any Transformers toys.
Well, I think
he was quite like, "Where are my Transformers?" It's like,
it's a valid question to ask, Lewin. He's a growing boy. Where are his Transformers? I mean, if you've moved on from Go-Jetters and Octonauts, and you're now into Camp Cretaceous and flesh-eating dinosaurs, the innocence of youth has not quite fled. It's just moved into slightly more gory and graphic areas. Okay, so we've established that you're not putting a heart rate monitor on your children while you're doing your erg. So the level 4 doesn't do it for you. 16 strokes a minute. What nonsense is this? 16 strokes a minute is what I do now I'm old.
I mean, it's like, essentially, level 4 workouts range from 40 to 70 minutes of continuous effort. Well, apart from the fact that the idea of sitting on a rowing machine without standing up for 70 minutes is quite literally an anathema to me, even with my funny Danish sex toy seat.
I still quite like sitting down for long periods of time and just paddling out an erg, mainly because it's all I can do now that I'm old and knackered. But yeah, you get into a zone. There's just you in the boat shed. The River Tyne has got seals outside, wondering where you are. It's great.
So they can eat you.
I think until we find a body, we have to give them the benefit of the doubt. They have a mandate to come inshore as the tide comes up, and we're not going to expel them.
Yeah, but anyway, so consult the chart labeled levels 4 sequence formats for the different descriptions of various 10 and 6 minute segments of these workouts. Now, okay, right. So we go through the 11 odd paragraphs and stuff. And I mean, look, this is okay. Just give you an idea about this guy.
Okay.
Where is it? Calculating paces. He goes through. I mean, I know this was back in like 2001 when everybody had Model Bs, but he goes through this entire thing on how to calculate your average pace for your session. And it's like record keeping. As mentioned, accurate record keeping is essential to the plan. It is necessary to be able to look at scores and chart individual and team progress. You'll be provided with a record sheet prior to the start of each week of each practice. I'd have just said, you know what, I'm going to go and play basketball.
It's not just that. It's. I mean, we've said that everything we did at Agecroft was recorded on a spreadsheet and all of the rest of it. But I think that rowers, and certainly of our generation and before our generation, are a bit like darts players. You know, when you see these big fat beery men at the tavern in Essex or wherever it is,
Yeah.
and they can subtract anything from 501 in a 3 dart combination, and it's like that. It's like some kind of Rayman speciality. I think most rowers, if you go, 18K at this percentage of your 2K pace, they'd go, it's about 204, isn't it? Bosh.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's like we can work in splits because we've done it.
No, bizarrely enough, I am actually able to calculate things in multiples of 1 minute and 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Which is strange and slightly weird, but there you go.
But I don't need a mathematical formula to do it, because I know that like a 632K is like a 137, 138, somewhere around there. I know that 145 over 5K equals X. I know that 2 minutes over 18K is about 65 to 70 minutes, give or take, whether or not I need to go for a wee in the middle of it. It's not rocket science.
Indeed, but
please record your information neatly, legibly, and promptly.
I remember looking at that and just thinking, my God, you and me, Mike, we would not have had fun together. I saw this and I just thought, literally, I mean, it's just like, can you imagine this guy was dealing with 18-year-old girls? And this was probably right at the beginning of Title IX. When is it Title IX or Title 19? I can never remember. Anyway, let's just say it's that thing that's produced an undefeatable generation of USA women's aides. That said, however much money you spend on men's sport in a US university, you have to spend exactly the same amount of money on women's sport.
Okay.
Which is why American universities went big on rowing, because it meant they could spend money on boathouses.
Hey, I think every home should have a boathouse. If I was running for Prime Minister, and I believe there'll shortly be a vacancy, although maybe not, he's going to have to be got out of there by Soviet tanks at the bottom of the garden. I think
he's got in-laws.
Yeah, I would run on the promise of a boat shed in every house, a single in every home, and free coaching for under fives, obviously.
Indeed.
Record your information neatly, legibly, and promptly. What happened to Dennis standing over you as you collapsed on your erg, writing it down and going, you're going to have to do a lot better than that to get anywhere? What's wrong with that system? What's wrong with the Glaswegian kick up the arse system?
I don't know, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. That so much of this just really comes over. But anyway,
maybe a little bit pedantic. I mean, maybe
a little bit pedantic.
Maybe a little bit pedantic. Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, so
row blue. What, like with cold? What are we talking about?
No, that's just what they say at University of Michigan. Row blue. Yeah.
Okay, so like lots of swearing and off-color jokes about mother-in-laws. Fine. Well, I mean, it's been a while, but I'm sure I can dig some up.
Okay. But this is the level 4 sequence format, which means you have to do your 10-minute sequence, and you're going to have to do up to 6 of these in a row without stopping, and then it's going to be sort of like broken down into these like different 168 sequence or 172 or 180 sequence. And where you do a 4 and a 3 and a 2 and a 1 at 16, 18, 20, and 22. And not only do you do them 16, 18, 20, 22 and just see how it goes, you do them all at specific paces. So if you are a highly talented young lady rower and your 2K pace is 1:44, your rate 16 will be 2 minutes 10. Your rate 20 will be 2:01, and your rate 26 will be 1:48. Just all those. So, and you've got to remember those while you're on the ergo. I don't know if they were written up in front of you or everybody had a personal training plan. This was before the days of like, linked Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah.
So I think you've just had to remember it.
So just to clarify, on any given 6 by 10 minute piece, you might have to do a 16, 18, 16, 18, 16, 18, followed by a 20, 22, 24, 22, 20 at these various paces.
Yes.
I'm sorry that look, I'm a bear of very little brain. We've established this on this podcast. I'm basically the offspring of Winnie the Pooh and Tigger on a dark night in the 100-acre wood. I can basically cope with someone going, Aaron, start at 22, go up every 4 minutes or whatever to 24, 26, 28, 30, and then come. I can do a rate step, and I can do an up and down pyramid. I can do all of those things. I can even remember splits. But if you then ask me to remember another rate step with another set of splits and then another one, I'm going to struggle. I'm going to end up,
I honestly don't quite. I mean, I understand where he's come from. It's all about this kind of like what is a very kind of old philosophy of the stroke power index. So that whatever rates you're doing, you cover the same distance in between strokes. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So it's like you do 20 strokes a minute, but you're always putting in 10 meters per stroke or 14 meters per stroke or something like that.
Yeah.
And that means that if you can do that at 16 and then you can do it at 20 and then you can do it at 24, that you'll be able to do it at rate 34. But it's not true. It's just complete problems.
He's basically trying to equate being able to match output, power outputs with distance means that when you're rowing in a boat, your output will be consistent regardless of what rate you're putting in.
Yeah.
But that negates or doesn't account for the fact that you can cover 5 meters a second rowing at rate 18 if you're doing firm pressure or you're doing some form of power stroke drill exercise, but you can probably cover 5 meters a second a lot more comfortably tapping it along at 26 or 28 without the same physical distress.
Yeah.
Or am I being a moron? It's possible.
I'm not going to say being a moron, but I think this is a somewhat discredited way of doing long, slow distance, if I'm really honest. But this is the fairly close to the end of, there you go, look, 10-minute intervals, total strokes, total meet. At this point, I just got, he's defining how far you need to go in your 10-minute interval to the nearest meter.
Yeah, okay. I mean, to be fair,
you've got to admit this is a level of like it's almost German.
Well, it's a level of kind of detail and pedanticism that is somewhat Teutonic. I mean, to be fair, you and I on a given 30-minute test, rate 20 piece would have an idea of where we're going to, I would be around about 8,400 and something meters. You would be around 8,007, something like that. A bit more.
Now or back in the day?
Well, back in the day, obviously.
Yeah, back in the day, 8,007 would be what I'll be aiming for.
Yeah, but so if we were asked to do our 18K, we'd have a rough idea of how long it would take us. If we were asked to do a timed piece, like a 3 by 10 minutes at a certain AT, it would be an AT session, 3 by 10 minutes. We'd have an idea roughly what each 10 would come out with based on where we were in our training load. Yeah. So we would kind of know that. But I don't think that we would ever expect to necessarily hit it every time to the exact meter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So essentially, now this is essentially it's all this nonsense, which kind of I've sort of described as being very Gnostic. It kind of relies on, like I said, I've tried to take this document and turn it into my own training plan so many different times. And I've never been able to. I've never been able to just like work my way through every one of these like sequences of like different step up, step down, whatever. It just bores me rigid. And it always seems as though what you need is the guy who wrote it, the guy who understands it, who's actually going to turn this into a weekly or a monthly training program for you. Yes, he's telling you everything that there is there, but what he's not done in this document is actually come up with a week by week training plan. You know, he's talked about how he progresses the load and how you go, and it starts out easy, and by the time we get to the NCAAs, it's really, really hard, and that last month is going to be hell, and all these things, and then we're going to, you know, there isn't really a taper, but we're going to reduce things down.
So are you thinking...
But it's something that it's like he's been incredibly open, but at the same time, nobody would ever have the patience to come along and actually replicate this for themselves as their own training program.
So what you're basically saying is, for the Wolverine plan to work for the average rower, you need the Wolverine coach saying, right, this week we're doing this.
You need Iron Mike standing over your shoulder and complaining that you haven't filled out your training log. Because
otherwise, the average rower would do what you would do or have done, which would go, this looks really interesting. I'm going to try and fit my training around it, and then giving up in a welter of pencil computation, sums and paperwork, and going, sod it, I'm just going to sit on the rower and pull hard for a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say, I like some, you know, sitting at rate 18 is not a huge amount of fun, especially now that I'm old and grey and dying. But I do like the idea of some of the 1820, 1820, just playing with the rate a bit, just to keep it interesting over, you know, over certain units of time. I think that's a nice idea. I don't think I'd have the patience to go, right, my first 10 minutes is a 16, 18, 16, 18. My second 10 minutes is a 20, 22, 24, 22, 20. My third is, and it's got to be, I would just I'd probably program in Dennis's Pyramids of Doom, see how far I was off my, you know, my pace when I was younger and fitter, and then call an ambulance having committed harikiri in the boat shed. But it would be more fun.
Yeah.
It would be more fun, because it would just be, well, let's see what we can do 250 at now. And it's very slow, but it's more fun.
It is more fun. It's exciting. And this is where we actually get to the fun bit, which is the Pete plan. Because,
well, anyone called Pete Brewer, sound person, absolutely sound person. So
indeed.
Yes.
So essentially, you know, that idea that we said of trying to turn all this nonsense here, all of this, yeah, we can see that, you can see that.
It's nonsense. Yeah.
I'm really, really worried that I don't know if they're actually recording the screen. They're just recording us, but we'll soon
find out.
But fundamentally, all this stuff, imagine if you just like took all that out and just said, do a 10K nice and gently.
Well, now you're talking my language. That's what I expect my coach to do.
Yeah, just like do a 10K at the sort of pace that you feel like, so it's not going to get in the way of doing your level 2 session tomorrow. Yeah,
but I mean, and I'm not, look, I know that the modern idiom is that there is a dialogue between coach and athlete, and I think that's a wonderful concept. Whereas the dialogue between us and Dennis was, you will do this, okay. That was pretty much as far as it went. I'm not saying that I'm stupid and I'm not engaged with my training program. I could see the logic in what Dennis did. But sometimes just being told, look, it's Monday, it's 18K at this rate and roughly this split based upon this. Okay.
Yeah. And essentially, that's what you need as either an independent indoor rower or as a kind of like someone in a very, very small club where you don't necessarily have a coach. You don't necessarily have a huge wealth of coaching and training experience. And you just need a simple plan that you can do as an athlete or give to a group of athletes to just knock out the water.
Because this is the key point, which is, if you look at all of the government stuff about exercise and all of the NHS stuff about exercise and all of the professional research about exercise, is the more barriers you can remove between someone going, I want to get fit or I want to get fitter, and them getting fitter, the better. If they have to work out their training program, find that. But if someone just goes, right, Monday you're doing this, Tuesday you're doing this, Wednesday you're doing this, Thursday you're doing this, Friday's your day off, Saturday you're doing this, you go, right, well, there's my week. It's Monday. What am I doing? What do I feel like today? I don't know. Let's check my heart rate. Let's look at the Wolverine Plan. Oh, it's an 18K or it's a whatever.
Yeah. Or
it's removing barriers, isn't it?
It's removing barriers, which is precisely what. Now, I'm gonna say this once. You should now hopefully be seeing. I'm just gonna bring that there.
The Peak Plan.
Actually, you're seeing the Peak Plan.
I can see the Peak Plan.
Peak Plans. What? This is the fun bit where you make me laugh, and I turn slightly purple.
Yeah. This is revenge for like
literally. This is where I can't breathe with COVID. But anyway, this is the P plan, and as you can see, it's what has been described as a frankly GeoCities ass website.
That's old school.
It's old school. It's a WordPress website. It hasn't been updated since, I don't know, hang on, let's get in there. About where are we? 2004.
Ouch.
On the Concept 2. And you got there. He's really bloody fast, this guy.
He's pretty quick. I mean, you are technically faster than him, but
I'm technically faster than him, and the only time we raced head to head, I did go faster than him, but he's also, as he would point out, he's only 5'11". He's one of the fastest men in this country under 6 foot.
Is a fast short ass, is he? Fantastic.
He is, I think he's one of like 15 men or something that've gone under 6'15", being under 6 foot.
Now, can we just go back a page? Because I saw something there that seemed vaguely familiar, which was a 3-week training cycle that repeated that developed every 3. Yeah. So a 3-week cycle with sessions being repeated every 3-week period. Now that sounds vaguely like Denis's 3 weeks, easy, medium, hard, easy, medium, hard. And the next easiest is more like the medium. So it's about, are we talking progressive loading again?
Oh, well, I think we might be talking progressive loading. Now, do you remember how the Wolverine plan didn't really have a plan? It had all it had was the nuts and bolts.
It had
a big pile of nuts and bolts and Meccano strips, and no real.
It was a method. It was a methodology and a rationale and an approach and all of the bits that you need to figure that approach out. But
absolutely, the Peak plan says we're going to strip it back to basics. We're going to take these bits. We're going to put this into an actual. So he talks about it here. You've got 2 types of training plan. You've got your periodic or your continuous. And your periodic takes you to a final date. Okay. Your continuous, doesn't. It takes you, it just keeps on building and building, and it lets you go through, so it would be really, really good, again, if you were in a small club, for instance, and you knew that you were going to have 5-7 races between April and September. You weren't peaking for like really big things at Dorney and Henley and all these places, but you knew you were going to do Kingston Regatta, you were going to do
so it's basically like end of August to December at Agecroft, where you're going to have to do Northwich, Chester, Runcorn, all of
that's the thing,
but you're not expected to be at your peak then. It's sharpening the sword.
Essentially it's a constant cycle of like, you build up, you fall back a bit, you build up, you fall back a bit, you build up, you fall back a bit. And here we go. Here are the 3 weeks of the Peak plan. Very simple. You've got your level 1, your long, slow distance. Your level 2, your long, slow distance. your level 3, your long, slow distance, and a day of rest. Do we recognise?
I'm getting deja vu. I'm getting Stockholm flashbacks. I'm getting being in the Vietnam jungle with a Glaswegian with electrodes going, you will go faster. This is flashback territory.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is essentially, now, this is kind of what I mean, because if we called somebody at Agecroft right now, hey Agecroft, we love you.
Hello Agecroft, how you doing, lads?
If we called someone at Agecroft right now and say, send us like a couple of months of your training plan, would it look a lot like this? Would it have this 1 day on, 1 day easy, 1 day hard, 1 day easy, 1 day hard? Now, spread it between the water. There'll be weights in there. There'll be some kind of odd water sessions that aren't kind of as straightforward as this.
Yeah.
They'll have like 30 stroke bursts or 3 times 10 stroke bursts or something.
Yeah. And you'd probably have I mean, I'm presuming this is like a Monday through, we would probably do 3 sessions on a Saturday and at least 2 and possibly 3 on a Sunday, depending upon
3 sessions on a Saturday.
We used to do 2 water, and then we usually used to do 1 on land, didn't we?
I'm sure I thought we might have had like a stretching session on land.
Was that what that was? Was that the bit where I usually fell asleep? Okay.
Yeah,
but we'd certainly double up on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, we'd have 2 sessions.
Yeah.
And Friday would be our rest day.
Friday would be a rest day, depending on where we were in the season. There used to be like a Tuesday morning after 18K was a 10K. We used to, and then we'd come back on Tuesday night. So, this is 4 by 1,000 with 5 minutes rest. Very familiar. 3K, 2.5K, 2K, 5-minute rest. Steady distances, 8 to 15K. Well, it was always 18K, but yes, I can see that. 5K at a hard distance. I mean, one of Denis's was 2 by 5K at a percentage of your 5K, wasn't it? So, I mean, you can kind of see where it's coming from. Yes?
Yeah, basically.
And it's structured. It's structured.
It is structured.
Easy, medium, hard. Start again.
Yeah, I'm not sure how easy any of these. I suppose
we were younger and fitter.
Yeah, we were. But I mean, I'm not entirely sure that this is an easy week, this is a medium week, and this is a hard week. I think it might be, but
I don't think
there is variety and variation.
There's variety and variation. There's different rates. There's different thresholds at play here. But it's also, unlike the Wolverine Plan, it is, regardless of whether you like it or not, it is a structured approach to what you should be doing on any given day, without having to think about it or work it out.
There's no kind of like messing around. There isn't a vast calculation required before you actually sit down. And in the end, it's like your steady distance is somewhere between half an hour and an hour.
Yeah.
It's all quite simple. Now, possibly it's a bit too simple. Possibly it leaves a bit too much to the imagination. Hard distance, 5K plus.
Yeah, there's no slap catchers, there's no cutting the cake, there's none of the things that make rowing fun.
Yeah, I think you would, but I do think that it is actually for if you're going to base your training program, which a very large number of people I think out there are still doing, I think you could base a water training program around this. And I think you could probably apply any one of those sessions to the water, albeit you might have to change the 500 meters to 90 seconds and the 1500 meters to 5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Denis and Kevin did paint on 500-meter markers along the length of the Irwell from Agecroft's landing stage all the way down to Manchester Cathedral. So yeah, we did know what the 500s were. But basically, if you were a coach taking this, you'd just go the 500 is like a 130. It's a 90-second,
Yeah.
or it's a 145. I mean, the other thing is, and we've talked about this before on the pod, which is how many training, how many roads must a man walk down before he calls himself a man? How many training sessions must a rower do before they can call themselves a rower? You could pretty much take any crew, any squad, from 6 days a week to only going out twice a week and go, well, actually, okay, today we're going to do our steady distance and tomorrow we're going to do X by 90 seconds. So you're getting that there are workouts there you can pull regardless of your level of engagement.
Yeah. And the other thing that I really like about this is that every single week you are going to be training. And I think this is quite an important thing that if we looked back at the last video in this series that we did, where we had the Concept 2 indoor rowing guide, there you wouldn't necessarily in 1 week train a multitude of different energy systems. But every one of these weeks, you're going to be training everything for your aerobic base all the way up to your anaerobic system with these guys.
Are we talking about the rowing pyramid? Are we back to rowing pyramids? We're building the base, we're doing the points, we're sharpening the spear and stuff.
Absolute pyramid.
Can't beat a rowing pyramid. God bless you, Kev, and all who sailed with you.
Indeed. You've got to build the base and then put the top on. And I actually think, now I've done this one, I would like to point out thousands, literally thousands of people in the indoor rowing community have done this. And if you're listening or in fact watching this podcast, I would like to just point out Pete has a little donate button. He has a little PayPal donation system. Good. And I do think that if you have followed the Pete plan, you should probably, in fact,
bung him a few quid.
Bung him a fiver.
Yeah.
I'm shilling for Pete here because, like I've said, I've raced him, I've met him. He's a lovely bloke who has a very, very exciting job in the aerospace industry. He works for Martin Baker ejector seats.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding. He's literally that cool. He's like, he's a very, very similar guy to our mom.
Okay. So you are not only shilling for Pete, you are asking for a shilling for Pete. Was that Indeed. A deliberate double meaning? That was beautifully done.
We didn't even rehearse that, did we?
Fantastic. Seamless. It's like we've known each other for a long time. This is all looking very familiar. And it's probably all the stuff that I should be doing rather than waking up in the morning and going, all right, I'll go for a half-hour run and by God, it will be horrible.
Indeed. Now, I'm going to say, I do think that it's not perfect. I think there are things that it's very keen on all your workouts being in meters as opposed to minutes.
Right.
And I think, so for instance, if you have your 5 times 1500, if you are, and I think this is very much designed for big, strong, heavyweight boy rowers and ergers, if you are rowing 5 by 1500 meters with 5 minutes rest, that's around about a 5 minute to a 5 minute and 10 kind of workout. And that's going to be, you do that 5 times, it's going to be stressing a certain part of your system. If you are a little lightweight 60-year-old lady, that 5 by 1500 meters might be taking you 7.5 minutes.
Fair point.
And I think that
it's a different loading.
Yeah, it's a different load. I don't know if it's a massively different loading. It's certainly going to take you a lot longer. The amount of rest you need might be, is it going to be different? Does it need to be? I don't know.
Okay.
But I think that when we look at these kind of interval pieces, could this be, this kind of thing here, could this be 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, etc., or 45 seconds, 90 seconds, etc.?
You're still following the structure of the pyramid, but you're just putting it in as time rather than distance, which is
so everybody is doing roughly the same amount of work.
The same amount of work. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think Pete's probably put it in like this because he's working to his 5 by 1500. He'll have a time that he's working towards, and that time might be different for people with different physiologies and different levels of fitness. So maybe swapping some of the distances out for times, but that's fine. I mean, we did distances and we did times as well. So
I'd also say he's like he kind of very much leaves it to your intuition about, where he's got this steady distance, 8 to 15K, about how fast you do that. He comes up with what I kind of always used to do mine at, which was like, you need to go fast enough you need to go slow enough that it doesn't get in the way of what you're doing tomorrow. You need to actually be able to go properly flat out on the hard session tomorrow. And he does say that down here somewhere. He also says, take a complete rest day every week. It's as important as any of the training sessions you do, which is nice of him.
It's what madness and heresy is this? No, but he is right. Even though our rest day at Agecroft was Friday, and certain people called Lewin and Mark Hancock would then book a spinning session for us to go and do. God bless them.
That was fun. That was fun.
I've never actually seen my liver until that point. It was great. I didn't know it was that color. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Your steady state sessions, which we fell foul of this when we were younger. We tried to make them faster each time. Your steady state sessions should leave you able to genuinely go flat out on a flat out session the next day.
Yeah. I'd also say that if Prof. Stephen Seeler were to look over this plan, he would say you're doing a 50-50 ratio of hard sessions to light sessions.
Yeah,
that's not right. You've got to knock out at least one hard session and replace it with an easy session.
Yeah, but I would say that he's a laconic Texan who makes jokes about Geordie women, and he is the leading authority on his subject, but we are rowers and we don't have brain cells.
There is this.
Sorry, Stephen, if you're listening, we'd love you to come back on. You were amazing when you came on the first time. I'm only gently ribbing you.
Yeah. But I do actually think this is a really good training program. I've done this one. It's fun. It's probably too hard and too intense for me these days.
A man of your kidney?
Yeah, I know. As Dirty Harry once said, a man needs to know his limits. And these days, I'd be looking at this and I'd say, this isn't great. This is too much for me. There's too many intense sessions. I'd just get ill if I didn't get injured. But this being said, this is important because, as you can see, there are lots and lots of aspects to this. Now, I'm also going to say that this is all free. You don't need like a passcode. Pete does ask for a donation, which I think is entirely reasonable, but he's just given away this for free.
Yeah.
Now, the next bit of this is the Pete plan, the 5K Pete plan.
Right.
Which, as far as I can see, is not based particularly on the Wolverine plan. It's literally Pete's just kind of taken the ideas of how the length of session relates to the target distance and just built on it, and has just created a series of different intervals, and he's created a 12-week training program which should build towards at the end of it doing 5K.
Okay, a 5K.
And again, you know, it builds from week 1, week 2, week 3, and then it progresses. It is a kind of progressive plan, because if you have a look here in week 4, you've got this 4 times, no, hang on, where is it? So yeah, in week 1, you've got 4 times 1500 meters. And then we come down here, and week 4, it's 4 times 1550. And then week 7, it's 4 times 1600. It builds each time. And you've got to try and, even though it's going longer, you've got to try and keep the same pace.
So again, it's a progressive loading. This is a little bit like the Concept 2K plan.
I think so.
Yeah.
Possibly slightly less detailed on like the kind of how you kind of the precise rate and pace. It does kind of leave pacing to your experience.
Okay.
But again, I've done this one. It was really, really effective. It's got its easy sessions. It's 10K plus easy sessions. Then it's got its harder sessions. It's 12 by 500 meters with 1 minute's rest. And it made me really fast. This was the plan I was doing when I got my 2K.
Okay, right. So you were following the Peak 5K plan when you got your 609.
That's right.
How does that work then?
I just think it builds like a massive aerobic base. It gives you enough chance to do some race pace work, 2K race pace work. In your 4 by 1500 meters. But essentially, when I got that, it was a race in November. It was an online race in November.
Yeah.
And the result was I was trying to train myself for the Forcehead.
Ah, right. Okay. So this was basically you putting in your winter mileage, and it had the happy accident, or by happy chance, it also made you very fast over 2K, because it put your aerobic base, it built your engine basically.
Yeah.
And then you had the top end speed and the mentality to grit it out in the as you went for the 2K.
Yeah. And I kind of rate it as a program, to be honest.
I think what we're looking at here is, I mean, we're doing this. You've instituted the great training plans of our time, because we're looking at the different ways to skin a cat. Because one of the things we keep coming back to on the podcast is, how many sessions do you have to do to be a rower? And the answer is, as soon as you get in a boat, you're a rower. It then depends upon what your objectives are. If you want to get to Henley and go down the track, you will have to follow a different training structure than if you just want to go down to your local boat club and have a nice paddle at the weekend. But by structuring your training, regardless of where you are, it gives you a better chance of having good outings, because you're working progressively and building. And I think that from what we've discussed and what you've shown me with the Wolverine Plan and the Peak Plan, is it might be easier for the casual rower who wants to structure something to just kind of dip into the Peak Plan and go, well, I can really only do 2 sessions or 3 sessions a week because of work and children and life. So on Monday, I'll do this, and on Wednesday, I'll do this. And on Saturday, when I go out, with the squad or with the crew, we'll try this or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And indeed, here we go. Here's the kind of the cut down Peak Plan, where essentially it's just got rid of all the steady state. The physiologists
always a good thing. Steady state is there's no scientific basis for why you should do it.
Absolutely not.
If it's not hard and fast, it's not rowing.
Absolutely. But there you go. It's all there. Now, there's one thing I need to add here.
Okay.
The Peak Plan website is very, very, very comprehensive. And at some point, he created the beginner training plan, which is actually it's like the least advanced, but it is the most highly detailed.
Oh.
And so if you literally, you're starting out and you say, I'm getting into this, how do I follow what should I do to get a bit more advanced, but I don't really know what I'm doing, and I've never rowed for more than like 15 minutes,
Yeah.
you've got the beginner training program, which is, okay, it's a 24-week training program of 5 sessions a week. Now, as you can see, it looks as though he's just like said, do your 4x1K, 3 minutes rest. And for a beginner program, that's a little bit
Intense.
Well, okay, this is week 21.
Well, yeah, I think you could probably take a group of beginners in September and go, right, so you want to do some regattas next summer.
Yeah.
This is basically it, isn't it?
Yeah.
This,
it builds up to it.
Yeah, it's a season's worth of progressive training.
But what's more, he realized that this is possibly a little bit bare. So he wrote instructions for every single one of these workouts. The 24-week peak plan.
Yeah.
These are your focus points for everything that you're doing. And I think, this is, it's a hell of a lot easier to understand than the bloody Wolverine training
compared
program.
to Wolverine's hypermasculinity. Here is my methodology, but I will not tell you anything else about it. This is Pete being your coach, even when he's not there. You can basically come to this document and go, what am I doing today, Pete? Well, you're doing 5,000 meters, but what I want you to do is the 3 key points is to look at your technique, your relaxation, and your efficiency on this. Okay, so let's just do that. Well, what are we doing today, Pete? Well, we're doing 6x500 with a 2-minute rest. Now, this is going to be higher intensity, so we're going to split the workout into smaller segments. This is basically hand-holding. This is coaching without a coach there.
And he's given it away for free. Which I think is pretty cool.
We've got to give him some money for coffee or something. This is good stuff.
No, I have. Like I said, I've been through 2 seasons on the regular peak plan and the peak plan, and I chucked him a $5 each time.
Fair enough.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
I'm probably going to be following this as I try to get fit again, and I think I'll probably bung up some cash because this 5 sessions in the first week, you must be keen. That is basically a sarcastic coach, but being jocular with you. That's the kind of stuff we like. Have a go at your first longer interval sessions. Breaking up the 20-minute row allows you a short break to regain your full concentration, which actually, despite what we say about Agecroft being northern barbarians and coming screaming out of the mist with our faces painted blue to take your pots, marry your women, and move to Henley.
The best things a man can know in life.
The best things a man can know in life is to see the enemy crushed, hear the lamentation of his women, and take his pots and medals, obviously.
Absolutely.
But Dennis and Kevin always used to say that the reason why we have breaks and we don't do our 18K or our 21K all the way through, and we have intervals with these sessions where you get off the erg, is so you can reset your concentration and reset your technique. So, I mean, I think someone from Agecroft has possibly read this at some point and borrowed some of it, which possibly. Is not a bad thing.
But I think I commend the peak plan to both indoor rowers and water rowers out there. If you're looking for a way to get better, almost at whatever level you're at, to get better and go faster, this will do the job.
You can't go far wrong with this. I mean,
there's even a little bit of like sprint training in there, which is, let's face it, it's pretty basic. It's like got 2 sessions. That's it. That's your sprint training.
Yeah,
I've done some sprint training, and that's literally that about covers it.
But what more do you need? I mean, I can't really commend this because I'm old and knackered and sarcastic, but Lewin is a proper rower, ladies and gentlemen. He has good scores. He can move a boat. And if he's saying it's decent, then it probably is.
And so, yeah, this is the peak plan, and it's undoubtedly based on the Wolverine training plan. Pete does also offer, and I'm going to try and find the cursor. There we go. He offers coaching.
He does.
So he does do proper coaching where he will tell you precisely how long to row, precisely how hard to pull, on both that, on technique, all of these things, which is, that you'll have to pay for, but I think that's fine. And then he's got all these kind of like different, he's got all these training plans, which are really very effective. So give it a go if you want. Feel free to stick some extra easy sessions in there, because easy sessions is the thing these days. But in general, I think it's a pretty good little training program.
I think so too. And this great training programs of our time is brought to you because I think Lewin decided, and I agree with him, we've pretty much talked about everything in rowing, but we haven't done what a lot of other podcasts have and actually talked about things like training. And maybe some of you thought, well, you're just kind of bullshit chancers who are talking bollocks. And that's partially true. But the big question for rowing now in this country, after talking to Mark and seeing some of the feedback from Henley Regatta, is we lose approximately 10,000 rowers every year, according to British rowing surveys. That churn is kind of met by...
We get them back as well. I mean, it's
like
we don't want to lose. Yeah,
we don't want to lose as many, and it really is how many roads must a man walk down? How many sessions do you need to do to still be involved with rowing? And I think that there's a greater understanding that yes, there is a place for the 6 days a week, the multiple sessions, we're going to Henley and we're going. There is also a place for I can make this Saturday because I'm not at work and I'd love to go out in the quad, and that will be great. I'll see you at 7:45 on Saturday morning. If you're getting in a boat, you're a rower. That's it. So that's basically what we are here for. We love the high performance stuff. Obviously, we look at it with awe and wonder. We love the elite stuff. We love the fact that British rowing and our squad is, after the first World Cup, it looks like it's back. But also, we just like going out and smacking a boat around, through the water. It's fun, and we want more people to do it. So get stuck in.
Indeed, and I'm going to say, Aaron, and
yes.
I think you're probably going to find this quite controversial, and I'm not sure if our listeners will want to listen to Mummy and Daddy fighting, but I think if you're sitting on a sliding seat and yanking on a handle, you're a rower.
Are you talking about indoor rowers? I won't have that language in the house, young man. I will not have it in the house.
Aaron, this is how I got into rowing, was through indoor rowing, and these fundamentally are my people.
Can I just point out, and Dan will back me up, I actually go down to Tyne, and I've asked other people if they want to join in, and I sit in an empty hangar with a water tank and sit on a rowing machine and do the stuff that we used to do when we were young and fast, all by myself, just because I actually do like fitness.
And nobody else wants to join in.
I've said, lads, I'm going down, before the outing, I'm going to go down and I'm just going to, does anyone? No, not a single person. Dan walks past with the motor for the launch as I'm finishing off, before going out on the water. And it's basically, obviously, I've been fairly ill over the last 18 months or so with COVID and long COVID, but there's a joy in movement. And whether that's on the water with your friends or in a single, or whether that's on a rowing machine, feeling physical and feeling your heart rate pick up and the blood move through your veins is a wonderful thing. We're built to move. And yes, indoor rowing is fine. I was just taking the piss because that's what I do.
That's fair enough.
Okay.
But no, I'm really worried that all the people at Tyne aren't actually joining in.
They don't need to. They're just awesome oarsmen and oarswomen. And I have to say that because I found that a lot of them actually listen to us now. So I'm going to have to go back to the earlier episodes and basically edit out all of my swearing.
Oh dear.
You're really not well, are you, young lad?
Honest to God, this is why I got in touch with you this morning and just said, Aaron, we need to do an episode because I'm bored as hell. I'm so much better than I was for the past 2 days. The past 2 days, I was a mindless, shambling zombie. I'm just a bit ill today.
Okay.
I feel a lot better. What I'm kind of worried about is I know that you kind of get COVID and you're sick for a certain period of time, and they seem like you're getting better, and then you just like descend into the depths of like cytokine storms and stuff like that. So I'm still basically touching wood and just saying, right, I really, really don't want to end up in hospital with this one.
Are you basing that upon watching my experiences of COVID, which was catching it? It was incredibly mild, and basically for the last year and a half, I've gone, I'm better. No, I'm not. Nobody talk to me. Leave me alone. I don't feel very well.
Yeah, literally. That is the scenario I don't want to be in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Well, good. I'm glad you're feeling a little bit better. And yes, it was good to talk, even though I was providing the comic relief to your sciencey stuff yet again. No one will take me seriously as an artist, Lewin.
No, but you can play guitar. It's quite noticeable.
Yeah, I'm nearly up to 3 chords now. It's great.
And you still haven't produced like a kind of shuffling G-funk hip-hop-esque guitar track as a soundtrack for Broken Oars.
Are you saying that you want us to have a theme tune like the one?
We should have a theme tune. We should absolutely have a theme tune.
Well, I did one for Patricia Carswell, but I just thought that our theme tune was you going, "Hello, good evening, welcome, Aaron. Who are we talking about tonight?" And me going, "Well, why? I've no idea. I haven't seen the notes that we've written."
You write half of them anyway.
I'll produce an intro theme tune for Broken Oars podcast. It might be kind of Eddie Van Halen-esque. I'm feeling kind of a summery vibe coming on.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the latest episode of Broken Oars Indoors, great training programs of our time, looking at the Wolverine Plan and the Pete Plan, which was based on, we recommend the Pete Plan, we don't recommend the Wolverine Plan particularly. Go out, haul on the handle, go fast.
Indeed.